Thayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, a statement. I'm glad you started out in the beginning of your testimony noting that this is not an effort to raise money for the general fund. And I think that advocates for medicinal marijuana need to stop saying this is going to solve our pension problem and solve our education funding problem, because it's not. It's a false promise. We don't tax pharmaceuticals in this state. So why, if we passed medicinal marijuana, would we tax it? It's unfair, and I'm glad you got that off the table to begin with, because it's a false promise, and people need to stop advocating for things by saying it's going to solve our pension problem, because there's nothing that's going to solve our pension problem except the enforcement of the bill that we passed this past session and continuing to fund our pensions over the next 20 years. A question then, after that statement. Why the rush to do grow your own, smoke your own? Because that to me seems like a very risky path to recreational marijuana, because I don't think what you're talking about is enforceable. Why not look at pill, patch, or oil forms? We passed CBD oil when we passed the hemp bill. I co-sponsored the hemp bill, and I voted for the CBD oil bill. It apparently has some of the same medicinal properties. So my question is two-part. Why not look at the pill, patch, or oil options? You might pick up more votes on this if you get away from grow your own, smoke your own, because I'm not going to be for that. And also, what about the CBD oil that is already legal in Kentucky and apparently can be used for some of the maladies that medicinal marijuana advocates are discussing? So two-part question there. Thank you.
It's my understanding that that the CBD oil and the hemp from hemp product plant can already be used for some of these things, but not all. And it's also my understanding that the full effect of the plant or of the flower is helpful in ways that the CBD oil is not. And so if that is wrong, and if doctors think that the CBD oil will suffice, then that's what they should certify for their patient. But what this does, Mr. Leader, is it trusts the doctor to make the decision. And so if the doctor wants the CBD oil, then that's what they say this patient should take. If they think more of the full effect is helpful, then that's what the doctor will decide, not me. I know how to sue people, and I know how to defend people in court, but I'm not a doctor. And so I want to trust the doctor who has that relationship with his patient to make that decision.
Pill, patch, or oil, what about that question?
Well, and that's the same thing there, is the flower has more of a full effect than the drill down of the CBD oil. That's my understanding. If that's wrong, then the doctor will not certify.
All right, well, I just gave you a suggestion. You can choose to do with it what you wish. One final question. You mentioned, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned that people will be given the option to forego their Fourth Amendment rights. But then later on you said, no, which is it? Because that's a big deal. And Ben Franklin said that people who are willing to give up a little bit of their safety for some security deserve neither.
Yep.
And to me, signing over your Fourth Amendment rights is a really big deal. And so I'm confused as to your testimony, and I'd like you to clarify that.
Let me clarify that. So this is something that Representative Morgan will know well. If you have a liquor license, you cannot say to the regulator, you can't come in my store. They can come in, and they can look behind the counter and do what they need.
Store's big difference from somebody's house.
That's what I'm about to clarify. I may have misspoken. The businesses, so there's two different kind of categories. One is the person, one is the businesses. The businesses will not be able to say, hey, you don't have probable cause, you can't come into my business and make sure I'm doing things. Like the liquor stores, if you get a license, you are saying to the regulator, you can come in and check me out. Now, for the individual, if they're a self-grow or whatever, if there's probable cause, then they can come in and check it out and make sure that they're only growing 6 or not sharing, whatever the appropriate thing is. But the individual there must be probable cause for the individual to come into the home and to do the search and so forth and so on. But for the businesses, if you get a license, you are telling the regulator, you're giving up your right to say you don't have probable cause to come on into my business or whatever, just like we already do with liquor store owners and ABC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's completely unrealistic to say that you're going to be able to enforce this grow your own, smoke your own, and not have patients share it with their friends. Just think it's completely unrealistic. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you both for your testimony today.
You're welcome.